What's up, everybody? My name is Dell. This is Dell on Movies. Thanks for hanging out with me. And if you've been here before, thanks for hanging out with me again. So it is that time of the month where we're going to talk about everything that I watched last month, which is the month of October, spooky season. Lots of movies to talk about, but I'm not going to spend a whole lot of time on a bunch of them because those are the ones I watched for Movie Swap, so you can get more in-depth thoughts on those. But I'll say a little something. So let's just go ahead and get to it, and we're gonna start the month off with, here we go, Dawn of the Dead, the remake, the original, and then the remake. I watched these for a movie swap with KB and along with Candyman that you can see up here, and I really enjoyed both the Dawn of the Dead movies. The original was just a tad bit slower, and the slow moving zombies that was of course the George A. Romero original. Uh, that worked to his detriment a little bit, but still a really good movie. Still really enjoyed it. 3.5 stars for me on that original, and that one, it does take a little bit of a more socially conscious tact, whereas Romero is trying to comment on consumerism. Uh, in the remake, Zack Snyder directed that. He's not so much doing that. He is bringing up power dynamics in that movie, and but it's pretty typical of what we see in a lot of other movies. But really fun movie. I thought that he tackled the subject well, and of course the fast moving zombies really added to that. So 4 stars I went for the remake, 3.5 for the original. Both really good movies. For that same movie swap, I had KB watch Candyman, the original, and I of course always have enjoyed this movie, one of my favorites. So 4 stars for me there. Following that up with the next movie swap was the next week really, and I started that with that was with Mika and Kara, the twins, and they had me watch The Autopsy of Jane Doe. I really enjoyed The Autopsy of Jane Doe also. The performances in it were really good. 3.5 stars is where I wind up, and if you're familiar with me, of course, 3.5 stars, I really like the movie. Um, a couple of things kept it from being a 4. Like I said, go ahead and check out that movie swap, and you can get my full thoughts on that one. And this is not the movie that they had me watch. This is The Exorcist Believer. I took a trip to the theaters to see that, and I'm actually gonna bump this up to a 3 star movie. I didn't hate the movie. I actually thought it was a decent movie. And nope, you know what? I'm gonna leave it at 2.5. So it was basically right down the middle. A lot of paint by numbers, and you know what? Now that I'm talking about it and thinking about it, it's 3. I'm gonna go ahead and go to 3 stars. So if you're not familiar, basically it's two girls who are friends, high school girls. They're friends, and they decide to skip out on the bus going home. They ditch the bus going home, and they go for a walk in the woods. And next thing you know, they're missing. And after their parents find them, both sets of parents find them, there's something very different about them. And of course, as moviegoers to a movie entitled The Exorcist Believer, we know that they've been possessed. Uh, and then the movie progresses from there. Actually, I thought the movie did a pretty decent job of doing what it was trying to do. It gave us some nice visuals. It wasn't particularly scary, though it did have a few creepy moments. I don't think it went as far as it should have to really bring the horror out. I think it kind of stopped short. The standout scene probably is the scene in the church where one of the girls just comes into the church and she's repeating some things over and over that you just don't say in church normally. And if there was more of that in the movie, more things where they were really kind of going for it, then the movie would have really stood on its own. As it is, it anchored itself to the other movie, especially by bringing in characters and actors from those other movie. Ellen Burstyn shows up, of course. And if you kind of take her story out and take the name Exorcist off of the movie and maybe just call it Believer, I honestly think that it would be better received. It's not a world beater. It's not a great movie by any means, but I thought it was okay. So 3 stars from me on The Exorcist Believer. Um, it doesn't look like they're gonna make. Well, they probably will make more of these. We'll see how that goes. Next movie is Neighbor number 13. This is a Korean movie. Uh, Mika and Kira was supposed to watch this movie for Movie Swap, so I watched it in preparation for that. It's pretty obscure though; they couldn't find it anywhere to watch, so we didn't get to talk about that one on the show. So I'm going to talk about it a little bit here. We get let me see if we can make that a little bit bigger here. The young man, this young man right here, he's a kind of unassuming guy. He was bullied in high school. He's bullied a lot, and a few years later, I think it's 10 years is what it says. He moves into an apartment complex where his high school bully is, living down the hall, or he might be on the next floor up, and that kind of brings up some anxiety in him. And he goes to work, he goes to get a job, and his first supervisor is this same guy, the same bully. Now this guy is still a jerk. He's still kind of a bully. But what we know about our main character is that he's got this guy, and this guy is really kind of his alter ego, and he's a kind of take no BS kind of guy. So he does some pretty bad things, pretty heinous things, and the movie gets just crazy, just kind of goes off the rails. So if you're into Korean cinema, if you haven't seen that one, check it out. I think it's well worth your watch. 3.5 stars from me on The Neighbor number 13. Um, Next movie is Edge of Sanity, and this is another movie that I watched for Movie Swap. This one I watched for the swap with fans of something and fans of something. So I watched this one, and I gave it 3 stars. And I'm actually probably I'm gonna leave it at the 3 stars because I didn't hate this movie either. Um, it's Anthony Perkins in a role that's a lot like Norman Bates, except hypersexualized. Norman Bates is already a sexualized character, but here he's even more so. As it's really a on the surface, it's a take on Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde, and they even say that his character's name is Jekyll, and of course he turns into a person named Hyde. So it is definitely Jekyll and Hyde, no two ways about it. Um, but every night when he turns into Mr. Hyde, he basically goes straight out and starts, trying to bed women, having sex as much as possible. So I wasn't quite ready for that part of the movie. And it's just kind of an insane movie. It's kind of bonkers, but I'm still stick with my 3 stars on that one. Again, check out the movie swap with fans of something for my full thoughts on that. I think I actually like the movie better than they did, and this was actually their recommendation. So we'll go with that for Edge of Sanity. Next movie is, let me get back to it. There we go. Next movie is Joyride, and this is not the horror movie from back in the day. This is the comedy of earlier this year, and as you can see, I really enjoyed Joyride. In this movie, it's basically Girls Trip, but with all Asian women, and our main character right here, she is going on a business trip to China, and she decides she's adopted by birth. She's not by birth, but she's an adopted child, and she decides that she's gonna look for her birth mother while she's there. But at the same time, she brings along her friends. Here are all her friends, and they all have crazy personalities and of course crazy backstories, and we just get into a lot of fun stuff with them. Really raunchy comedy. 4 stars, like I said, from Joyride. If you're into kind of Girls Trip kind of thing, or The Hangover, or Bridesmaids, or those kinds of comedies, if you're into that, this is definitely in that vein. So check out Joyride. I think you'll have a really good time watching it. I know I really did. I enjoyed it. The movie that I had the twins, Meek and Carol, watch for Movie Swap was The Car. That is the next movie. And The Car is just a nuts movie from the 70s, 1977, as you can see there, where this car just shows up in a small Texas town and just starts mowing people down, and then the police are trying to figure out who did it, and townspeople are scared, and it's just a fun time. It's not a legit 5 stars. You can see the 5 stars that I have up there, but if you're familiar with my rating style, if you've got those 5 stars up there and you see that like lit up, the heart right there clicked, that just means it's a bad movie that I love. It's so bad, it's awesome. Just a really fun time with this movie. And again, for the twins' thoughts on it, check out that movie swap with Mika and Kira. And the other movie that I watch for fans of something is the movie that I had them watch, and you can see the exact same thing. And it's Sleepaway Camp, a cult classic, slasher movie classic. 5 stars in that heart again. In this case, I wouldn't say it's well, you know what, I will. The acting is bad. The writing, a lot of it is kind of ham-fisted and telegraphing things. Now that I've seen it a few times, but it does telegraph some things. This movie, of course, is lifted up by that iconic ending. If you've never seen Sleepaway Camp, I'm sorry, but if you have, you know what I'm talking about. And again, for their full thoughts on it, check out that movie swap. And the movie swap madness didn't stop because they have In the Mouth of Madness. This is a movie I watched for my swap with Caprice, aka Draculina Horror, and this one is just, it's a legit 4-star movie for me. It's really good. John Carpenter, by the way, directed this movie. First time I had seen this one. Like I said, I've only seen about half of John Carpenter's filmography. Maybe 1 or 2 movies more than that. But I really enjoyed this one. We have our main guy here, played by Sam Neill. Sam Neill is he busts people for insurance fraud, is what he does for a living. And somebody hires him to go find this author, Suda Kane, who is a world-renowned horror author that everybody reads. He supposedly outsells Stephen King by the millions, making Stephen King look like a nobody. And as he starts searching for Suda Kane, things just start going crazy as the world just kind of seems to be falling apart on him, or his grip on reality is definitely slipping. Again, check out Movie Swap again. I'm sorry to keep saying that, guys, but yeah, Movie Swap with Caprice, Draculina Horror, and get my thoughts and her thoughts on it, because we had a really good conversation about this film. 4 stars for me for In the Mouth of Madness. Next movie is The Burial. This one stars Jamie Foxx and Tommy Lee Jones, based on a true story. The lawyer here is Jamie Foxx plays the lawyer Willie Gary, and his client is Jeremiah O'Keefe, played by Tommy Lee Jones. The deal is that there is a big company that's buying out funeral homes, and they kind of stiffen Tommy Lee Jones on a deal, and Tommy Lee decides to sue them, and against everybody's wishes, he's already got a lawyer and he's already got a firm, but against their wishes, he still hires Willie Gary to come on and to them. And the reason being that the case is going to be tried in a county that is almost all black, and so he's basically going to use Willie Gary as his ace in the hole kind of thing. And he had learned about him because he is already a big time lawyer that he's found on TV and things like that. So I enjoyed the movie, but it was paint by numbers. There's nothing special as far as I was concerned, but it was enjoyable to watch. And Tommy Lee Jones and Jamie Foxx were both excellent in their roles. Most of the cast was, so that might bump it up a bit for you. So yeah, give it a look. It's definitely worth the look. It's just not one that I'm going to count among my all-time favorites. I do have a little bit of some tidbits about Willie Gary. Again, he is a real lawyer, a real person, and I do have some connection to him, and not in a personal way. No, he has no clue who I am. It's just that I attended Shaw University, which is his alma mater, where he did his undergrad studies, and then he went on to North Carolina Central University, which is where he did his law school, but also my wife's alma mater. So he went to law school at my wife's alma mater, got his law degree there. And then after he became big, wealthy lawyer, big time lawyer, he went back and he donated a bunch of money back to my alma mater right before I started school there. And the library was built with his name on it. So I do have that much connection to him. But as purely from a movie watching standpoint, good movie, not a great movie, but definitely one you should watch. Definitely an enjoyable time. 3 stars if you didn't see it already. Next movie is Reptile, and this one is a pretty interesting movie. I didn't know what to expect when I started this one, and actually I didn't start this one on my own. My daughter was home at the time, so she said, "Hey, you want to check out this one?" I said, "Okay." And what they're trying to do, as you can see here, it says following the brutal murder of a young real estate agent, a hardened detective attempts to uncover the truth in a case where nothing is as it seems, and by doing so, dismantle the illusions of his own life. And yeah, that's pretty much what it is. So Benicio del Toro does Benicio del Toro things which he is very good at. Alicia Silverstone shows up in here. She's also pretty good. And I did enjoy this movie, so I'm gonna go with 3.5 stars on Reptile. And as I'm talking about it, and I'm gonna have to be honest and say I might drop it down to 3. And the reason, not necessarily that I did anything wrong, but it's a movie that didn't really stick with me because I'm having a hard time recalling any details of it as I'm talking to you about it, and that's a bad sign for a movie. So it is definitely enjoyable, and I'm gonna go ahead and make that move. Well, no, I'm not. I'll do that later. But yeah, I'm gonna go ahead and eventually I'm gonna drop that down to 3 stars. But it is a good watch, so watching it might keep it at my. There it is. Watching it again might get it back up to the 3.5 star mark for me. And again, sometimes if a movie just doesn't stick with me, if it's only been a couple weeks since I've watched it and I can't remember too many details of it, then I have a hard time justifying that last half a star. Um, so don't think it's a bad movie. Just one that didn't quite stick with me as much as I wanted to. Next movie is Dumplings. This is the other movie that I watched for my swap with Caprice, and this is one I recommended to her, and I really enjoy this movie. And just to give you a quick, brief synopsis on it, it's a woman who is she's a little bit older. She's a middle-aged woman. She's been married for a long time. Her husband and not only has a wandering eye, he has younger women he's cavorting around with, and she's trying to recapture his attention. And so she seeks out a woman who supposedly has the secret to youth through her dumplings. And I'll leave it at that. 4 star movie for me, but if you're not into crazy horror, skip that one. The director's Fruit Chan. This is a Chinese movie. Bai Ling is also showed up in movies. You American audiences might be familiar with her from a few things. Next movie is 1001, and this is the movie starring Tiana Taylor as a mother who she went to prison, and this little boy right here, she went to prison, and when she came out, this is her son. She went to get him, but he has already been in the system, so he's been awarded a state or with a foster family, and she basically kidnaps him. She's like, "Hey, I'm home now. You're gonna go with me," and she decides to take him and raise him on her own, and things are going well until they're not. I don't want to spoil anything there, but I really enjoyed this. Tiana Taylor was really good in this movie. 3.5 stars for me on 1001. It's definitely a family drama, not a horror. A lot of spooky movies. I watched this movie. This is not one of them. This is definitely just straightforward drama. Horrific situation when you think about it in totality, but as far as a genre of film, it's not that. Really enjoyable though, so I'm gonna definitely recommend you watch 1001. I want to say it's on Hulu. Is it on Hulu? I did stream it somewhere. Next movie is Talk to Me, and I know I'm late to the game on Talk to Me, but I really, really enjoyed this movie. For me, this is my number one horror movie of the year so far. The premise, basically, we have a young lady who she just buried her mom. Her mom just passed away not long ago. Committed did she is that Yeah, mom committed suicide, and she's having a hard time dealing with it. And she goes to a party. She's already seems to be kind of an outcast, but she kind of gets in with the cool kids, so to speak. And if you've seen the trailer, you know that there's this looks like a ceramic hand, and you grab the hand, and strange things start happening. And through that, the movie does a lot to talk about grief. It talks about addiction and how those things affect not only the person who is directly dealing with it, but the people around them. And I thought it did an outstanding job at both of those things. 4 stars for me on Talk to Me. If you have not seen it, and if you're a horror fan, give it a look. Um, Let me know what you think on that one, because like I said, for me, it's my number one horror movie of the year. Another movie about on the same level that I had never seen before was The Descent, and I had actually seen parts of it. Or let me be more specific. Let me clarify. I have seen the beginning of The Descent about 25 times. Really, it's probably about 3 or 4 times. But every time I watched it, it was like after 12, 1 o'clock in the morning, and I just fell asleep. I couldn't deal with it. This time I turned it on, and it was actually about that same time, but I had a little more energy, and I watched it all the way through. Really enjoyed the movie. The visuals were great, especially considering that they were underground in a cave for almost the entire movie. After the open, once they get to the cave, not the entire movie, but once they get into the cave, and we get some crazy visuals in there that still stand up, and that it being dark, it really does help that. So The Descent, 4 stars for me. The ending, nice setup for a sequel that I didn't know there was one until after the movie ended, and I watched this on I think HBO Max, and they were like, "Hey, The Descent 2 starting now," and it was too late for me, so I watched The Descent 2 at some point, but I did really enjoy this one. So yeah, finally getting to see it after all this time. 4 stars for me on that one. Next up was The Angry Black Girl and Her Monster. A little late on that one. Also, it's been streaming for a while. A lot of people have been talking about it. And in this one, we get a young girl whose brother was killed in the street. We see her here. If you're familiar with her, this is Leia DeLeon Hayes. She's been in a few things. Um, her brother, like I said, has been killed in the street. They live in Chicago, I think, and she just so happens to be brilliant. She's in high school, but she's brilliant. She's already a brilliant scientist, and she is trying to figure out a way to bring him back to life. So yes, this is definitely a Frankenstein story, and we throw on top of that the grief that she's dealing with, and we're going to mention that word a lot in this video. The grief that she's dealing with, and then also the social commentary about the violence that's happening in inner cities, and you get a really good movie out of it. 3.5 stars for me from The Angry Black Girl and Her Monsters. So yeah, check it out. It is, I would consider it a horror movie, but it's not one that's scary really for much of the movie. Some parts of it are. Um, so if you're a person who's not into horror, don't worry about that. I would still say, yeah, you can give that one a watch. The next movie is Miguel Wants to Fight. And this movie is pretty funny comedy. Again, we went out of the horror genre for this one. Uh, it's about this kid named Miguel, a guy named Miguel, and that's him right up front, and this is his group of friends. And every now and again, they just get into fights, the local neighborhood riffraff, and it's happened often enough over the years that it's a kind of regular thing. The strange thing about all this is that whenever something breaks out, Miguel has never gotten involved, so he's never had a fight. They thought he had, but he always manages to kind of, you know, slink his way out of it somehow. Either he's hiding or he's just kind of standing off to the side or just not participating. And he decides himself really that, you know what, I really want to do this. It's time that I do this. It's time that I actually had a fight. And wrapped up in this is also his family's about to move away. So he's going to be away from his friend group. So this is the kind of the one thing for him that he wants them to remember him by. He doesn't want to be the one that, never got involved in the fight, like he didn't have his friends back. So that's what this whole movie is about. It's basically about him trying to get in a fight. And it's pretty funny. I had a good time watching this movie. If you're a fan of the Netflix series On My Block, I got a lot of vibes of that series, a lot of vibes of that from this friend group here. Um, they're all pretty funny, and their dynamics work pretty well. Like I said, it reminded me a lot of On My Block, and I'm a big fan of that series. If you haven't seen that one, check it out. It's on Netflix. I want to say it's 4 seasons, and so I really appreciated that and enjoyed Miguel Wants to Fight. The next movie is, let me scroll down here, 3.5 stars by the way for me for Miguel Wants to Fight. And I can see if I watch it again, I'm and caught maybe a few of the references and subtle things that it might even bump up to a 4. I'm not 100% sure on that. We'll see how that goes. The next movie is No One Will Save You, and this movie is an interesting take on an alien invasion movie, and it starts, as you can see, uh, with yes, Caitlin Devers is the star. A young woman who's been alienated from her community finds herself in a face-off against a host of extraterrestrial beings who threaten her future while forcing her to deal with her past. Basically, she's in her house and aliens come down and they're trying to snatch her up, and they're just she's dealing with that, and simultaneously she's remembering events of her past and not so many great things. This is another movie that deals a lot with grief and pain and that kind of thing. But it was pretty well done. So 3 stars for me on No One Will Save You. We get to the end, it's kind of a head scratcher a little bit, but I was okay with that. If you're looking for a different take on the alien invasion genre, I would say give this one a watch. Yes, it's presented as a horror slash thriller kind of movie. And it worked well for what it was. Next movie is going to be Infinity Pool, and I'd heard a lot of hype about Infinity Pool, so I wanted to check this one out for sure. And for some reason, it's not clicking. There we go. All right. So Infinity Pool, as you can see, I gave it 3 stars, and there's find out what kind of creature you really are, and they're at this island resort, and they're enjoying their vacation. This couple is enjoying their vacation, and all of a sudden, there's a Gabby who's trying to kind of be their guide and gets in with it, and it's one of those secret society kind of movies where they get in deep with a bunch of people, because the basic idea of the movie is that these rich folks they go off to these exotic islands, and if they commit a crime they can be pardoned or excused, but they have to make it look like they weren't, maybe. So what happens is, right at the beginning of the movie, our main character, Alexander Skarsgård, they all go out, a bunch of people, they go out drinking, and he is behind the wheel and runs over somebody, kills him, and gets arrested. However, what he doesn't know is that instead of actually going to jail, what they do is, if you have enough money to pay, they clone you and execute that person, because all crimes on this island are punishable by death. So they clone you and execute your clone, and they'll even let you watch. So it kind of gets all crazy, and it speaks a lot about the rich and how they might be above the law, and the things that they can do that we can't as the not rich, and it makes a lot of commentary with that. And because of that, you know what, I'm actually going to go ahead and bump it up, because it's another one of those movies where as I'm talking about it, it's getting better, and as I'm thinking about it, it's getting better. Watching it, and what held me back at 3, because we really had to kind of sift through what was going on in the movie, at least I did. So when it was time to grade it, because after I watch a movie, I just automatically go ahead, boom, put it right into Letterboxd and give it a score right away, because I know people like that kind of thing. I'm not big on scores, but if I'm going to give it a score, I just give it a 3. So like, hey, did I like it? Yeah, I liked it. So 3. But now that I'm talking through it, thinking about it more, And since I've been thinking about it since the movie ended, yeah, 3.5 is more appropriate. And I can even see if I rewatch this one, maybe bumping this on up to a 4, just like I said about another movie. But 3.5 is where we're gonna stand right now. Very good movie, very good horror movie. Mia Goth, another great performance. I know she's been kind of the it girl in horror for the last few years now since X came out, and I'm looking forward to more big things from her, especially Maxine coming out. Next movie, I had to really go far, far away from the horror genre, and I watched this movie called Beyond Boobs. So Beyond Boobs is it's a comedy, and it's a comedy, and what we get is I'm sorry, not a, it's a comedy, but it's a documentary. Okay, it's a documentary of this woman who was very well endowed, and she's thinking about having a breast reduction. So instead of the typical documentary like that, what she decided to do is basically talk to everybody in her family and friend circle, and then also some people out on the street, just basically about boobs. And it gets pretty funny sometimes, and it gets serious at other times, especially when she's talking to members of her family or her, and an ex-boyfriend, or rekindling hooking back up with an old boyfriend and talking to him. And so it's not what the title implies. It's not just it's not a bunch of boobs all over the screen all the time. That's not what this is. They do make an appearance, but it is more about her journey, getting ready for her breast reduction, and how the people around her feel about it. Really is what it boils down to. And she's already made up her mind, so I don't think she's looking for validation or to be talked out of it. She's just kind of gauging the room, so to speak, and seeing what everybody else thinks of it. So it's an interesting idea. This is a 3-star for me. So nothing amazing, but it was definitely a very interesting idea. Next movie is Haunted Mansion, the lightest of the horror movies I saw this year, probably. Definitely this month, and well, last month in October. And this is a remake of the Eddie Murphy Haunted Mansion from a few years back. This one has Lakeith Stanfield in it, Rosario Dawson, Owen Wilson, and I'm just looking at the picture right here. That's right, Tiffany Haddish is also here. Danny DeVito is here. He's not pictured up here, but Danny DeVito is here. And it was much better than I expected, to be quite honest with you. It was a lot better than I expected. I expected just garbage, to be honest with you. So, and if it feels like I'm changing a lot of my scores on the fly, which I am doing for this movie also, it's because of that. Because what I said a minute ago, I watch a movie, I just go ahead and put it in Letterboxd, give it a score, and without really thinking too much about it. And now that I'm again talking through it and talking about it, as I do that, the movie I realize the movie's a little bit better than what I gave it credit for, score wise. We meet this Rosario Dawson character and her son. They move into this mansion and quickly find out that it's haunted and leave. It was the scene warmed my heart, because I always wonder in movies like this, why don't they just leave and never come back? And that this answered the question. They leave. They try to leave, because I mean the opening scene is them moving into the house, finding out it's haunted, and leaving. But they're back at the house after opening credits and all that, because we find out that the ghosts that are in the house, they're now clinging to you, or they've marked you, or I forgot the terminology they used in the movie, but they're with you and they follow you to wherever you live and till you come back to that house. So that's why they go back. Lakeith Stanfield, he was a world-renowned scientist, and had a girlfriend, but she passed away recently, and he's been kind of depressed. But so happens that one of the things he invented was a camera that could take pictures of ectoplasmic activity, or ghosts, so to speak. And so they contact him to try to help him find out what's going on. They actually contact Owen Wilson's character first, who contacts him to find out what's going on. Both Owen Wilson and Lakeith Stanfield visit this house, and like I said, they leave the house, but then of course they are pulled back to the house. And It's a really well done. I thought it was good, good gateway horror, entry horror for younger viewers. Um, for older viewers like myself, it was just a cool watch. 3.5 stars for this. I watched the 4K lowdown. Dave's channel. Shout out to Dave. The 4K lowdown by the numbers. He and Rich from Turner Fan 77. They do that show together where they rate all the movies that they watched, the recent watches, and they talked about this movie, and they mentioned Lakeith Stanfield, and basically was like, what is he doing in this movie? Why is he here? This is a guy that's nominated for Oscar, and it has all these great acting roles, and they were kind of saying, well, maybe he needed that Disney check, and I fully understand that, but I don't think he was as out of place as they say, because I mean, if you look at this cast and think about what this movie is, it's almost like, what are any of them doing in this movie? Rosario Dawson has had a long, successful career in some very serious projects, and I mean, she's had some, funny stuff too, not so serious too. Um, so you don't think of her when you think of a movie like Haunted Mansion. Maybe a Danny DeVito you would, and a Tiffany Haddish, okay, and maybe an Owen Wilson, but with Rosario Dawson, Lakeith Stanfield, they came and they did what they did, and they were both really good in the movie. 3.5 stars. I feel like I'm going on forever about Haunted Mansion, and so we'll just move on to the next movie after Haunted Mansion, and that is Abby. Abby is a movie that I watched for my movie swap with Big Chris from Floyd House Flicks. He made a return to internet just for me. Shout out again to him. And Abby is a 1970s movie, falls into the blaxploitation genre, and he and I had a great conversation about blaxploitation in general, and of course this movie. And it is known as as a ripoff of The Exorcist. And indeed, in this movie, we have a woman who gets possessed by a demon. After we have a preacher played by William Marshall, aka Blackula, if you're familiar with him. He's on another continent. He finds an idol for a demon, and or not finds he well he opens up a box, and it he unleashes the demon, but it doesn't come to him. It goes to his daughter-in-law, and we follow her and her husband and her exploits. Whereas The Exorcist was mostly confined to a house, the movie, between houses and doctors' offices, with a few other scenes sprinkled in. This movie, Abby just kind of got to go wild all over the neighborhood, all over town, and I had a really fun time with it. It's kind of goofy, it's hilarious, but it works. It works. So if you're looking for scares, this is not it, but it is a fun movie. Carol Speed played the lead role, and I thought she was outstanding. She really was selling the movie. And again, Floyd and I, we had a great conversation about that. So check out that movie swap. Next movie, my daughter had never seen Saw, so now she has Saw. That's a stupid joke. It's dumb. I was dumb when I was formulating it right here, and dumb when it was coming out my mouth. But anyway, she's now seen the movie Saw, and one of the things about Saw is that it's actually a slow burn. It's not like the sequels. The sequels all get going pretty quick, and they ramp up the gore, and the games come rapidly, and then of course you get big twist reveal at the end that lasts 5 or 10 minutes, because they gotta show you all the little moments that were clues to that. This movie's different. It's a slow burn. Like I said, we get some things that happen right away, but they're intriguing things, so we want to stick with it, and we do all the way through the movie. And of course, if you've seen the movie, there is a big twist at the end of this one also. As improbable as it may be, it works on the movie level. So I again had a good time with this one. 3.5 stars for me. For her, she was like, it was okay, it was cool, and she was looking for more gore. But then I assured her, that that's coming in the sequels if we watch the sequels. So we checked it out. Good stuff. Next movie on the docket was now her turn for her to watch a movie, get me to watch a movie. So we have our own little in-house movie swap, so to speak. And this is not an older movie; it's a brand new movie, Five Nights at Freddy's, and you can see the score here, 1.5 stars. I hated this movie. I just did not like this movie. Um, the 1.5 stars really comes from the animatronics was really good in this movie that they used. It went practical on that, practical, no, not CGI, and those things were really good, and those were worth a star alone. And then the rest of the movie got that half a star. So what's wrong with it? The writing for one is horrible, and I'm a person who is who's if the writing is really bad, I'm gonna notice it quickly. Into writing. Um, things that are brought up and then dropped or proved to be inconsequential, even though they're built up to be major things. Um, I don't want to spoil it. I don't want to give things away, but there's, for instance, there's our character. He has a condition, and he's doing things for the condition, and when it comes up that certain things change about what he's doing for the condition, but nothing actually changes about him. It's That's one thing, and then plot holes are just big gaping plot holes that don't really make a ton of sense, and decision making is really bad. And I get it. For kids, this is really aimed at younger audiences. For kids, this is another one of those entry horror movies that will probably be good for them. They would like it. For me, that writing was too horrible. The acting was just so at best. Um, and then the kills, it was a lot of cutaways because it's a PG-13 movie, and it was like egregious cutaways. It was like, you could almost see somebody just jerk the camera away at the last second, and then they focus on a shadow or something like that. And so I didn't get what I thought I was gonna get, and maybe that's a me problem. Maybe that's a hey, no, you're a much older guy than whoever's supposed to be seeing this movie. I get it, I understand it, and I'm usually pretty good about putting myself in the shoes of the younger audiences. So I feel comfortable saying that this is still not a good movie. Um, but fans of the game seem to like it, and it made a whole bunch of money. So we'll see how it goes for in the future as far as how well this movie is received down the line. For me, it's a one-time watch because I just didn't like it. 1.5 stars for Five Nights at Freddy's. And next movie was the other movie that I watched on my swap with Big Chris, and High Tension, and 3.5 stars. And I'm gonna bump it up because in this case it was not that I didn't know how I felt about the movie, because I had seen this movie. This is the movie I recommended for him. It was one of those where I didn't want to go, oh, it's automatically 4 stars, but because there is a big twist in this movie that you can call a plot hole, and that kind of holds me back all the time. But I'm gonna go ahead and put 4 stars on it because it's just enjoyable. Very bloody, very gory movie if you're into that. Not necessarily super scary, but I can see if some people are, especially first time watching, and if you are watching it in the dark, that kind of thing. Um, I'm not gonna give too much away other than a guy just walks into a house one night and starts killing everybody in the house, and he gets down to two survivors. We have the young lady on this picture right here, who's Marie, and then we get the other character who's Alex, another young lady who has been captured by the killer, and Marie here is trying to save her from the killer. And I'll stop there. If you know, you know, and if you don't, go check it out. So yeah, 4 stars for me on High Tension. And we're winding down the month because this was really Halloween night. This is the same night I watched it for that movie swap. I actually watched this in the afternoon. I got home from work that day, and man, I still hadn't watched High Tension for the swap, so I watched it again. And I had seen it before, so it wouldn't have been a complete disaster. But then after the swap was over, I was like, you know what? It's Halloween night. Yes, I got to work tomorrow, but I'm gonna fit in one more movie. And that one more movie was Cobweb. So I am very glad that I did stick around for Cobweb or stay up late for Cobweb. We get this young man here, and he is one night he just hears noises coming out the wall while he's trying to sleep. He's in his bedroom. He hears noises in the wall, like kids do. You get up, you go get mom, you go get dad. They investigate. They say nothing, and you go back to bed. But then he keeps hearing them, and eventually it gets to the point where he realizes these noises are real, and he's also kind of acting up in school, having some problems in school. Not having problems in school, but he's shown enough where his teacher is really concerned about his well-being. So she starts trying to intervene, and his parents are acting really strangely about the whole thing. And we spend the rest of the movie trying to figure out what's going on with these noises in the wall, and they do a really good job with it. The drawback for me was probably keeping it from being a 4-star movie for me, was because they tried a little too hard to make somebody look like a villain. And yes, you can say they're villainous, but I think dialing them back a little bit would have served the movie even better. But that said, I still really, really enjoyed the movie. Pleasant surprise, I was not expecting to see this gentleman who plays Highlander in The Boys, Anthony Starr. He was the dad. He was pretty good. Lizzie Kaplan was the mom, also really good. They were both good in the movie. Cleopatra Coleman played the school teacher. She was also really good in the movie, and it's odd because I don't know if you can tell from this picture or not, but whenever I look at her, I get Zoe Kravitz vibes. She's clearly not Zoe Kravitz, and she was in Infinity Pool. Yes, she was in that too also. So a good month for her and I as far as my watching goes. 3.5 stars for me from Cobweb. Like I said, they did a really good job portraying how scared this little boy and how it's affecting him. So it's another movie, yes, that kind of deals with grief, but this one veers in a different direction. It kind of sets up like it is that, but then it kind of veers off into something else. So it's not quite on that train, and I've mentioned it a lot this month. A lot of people have been talking about it, how a lot of modern horror deals with grief, and the horror has really always kind of dealt with grief. It's just now I think they're making more pronounced efforts in that area. They're kind of putting it out there, putting it out there on his face, whereas before a lot of times it was within the subtext of a film. Yeah, 3.5 stars on Cobweb. So I think that ends my watching for October. Yes, it does. It ends my watching for October. That was the last movie I watched for spooky season, and I really had a good time with all these horror movies I watched and a few of the other movies that were sprinkled in too. So we'll do this again in November. I probably won't have quite this many watches in November because I'm not trying to squeeze everything in. But then again, I might because I'm a teacher and I got days off. So in November, I got a lot of days off. So we'll see how that goes. I'll catch you back in the beginning of December to talk about what I watched in November. In the meantime, still check out the other videos on my channel. Go check out those movie swaps I talked about. Shout out to all my guests who made it a great spooky season for me. Getting close to 400 subscribers. I've been saying that for a while. I've really been hovering around 385 for weeks now. And I only say that because I'm not one who often comes on here and be like, oh, you got to subscribe and get me to this number, that number. I really want to do it because I said I was going to do it at a certain number. I was going to do a live stream when I got to 400 subscribers and do some giveaways. And I want to do those giveaways, but I also want to hold myself to what I said, which was I'm going to wait till I hit 400 subscribers. So help me get there so I can give away some stuff, guys. That's all I have for you on this one. I'll catch you on the next one. Bye.